The year is 43 BC. The Roman Senate has just declared your father's enemy, Marcus Junius Brutus, along with several other powerful Romans. Public enemy no. 1. They've seized control of the city, and now they're coming for you. What do? You could try to flee, but it's too late. They already know that you are in the city, and even if you manage to escape, where would you go? All of Rome hates your family now. This was the predicament facing the young Roman philosopher Cicero, the future Stoic emperor of Rome. Cicero wasn't born into wealth or power. His family had recently risen to prominence under the first emperor Augustus. But when his father got on the wrong side of the emperor's adopted son Tiberius, the whole family was exiled from Rome. Cicero grew up hearing stories about how his father had handled this crisis by throwing himself on the mercy of the mob, an act of submission that saved him from execution. Cicero learned from his father's example that sometimes the best thing to do when the chips are down is nothing at all. That's why he didn't resist when soldiers arrived to escort him to see the Senate. He simply put on a brave face, gave them no trouble, and went willingly. Then he calmly addressed the Senate, acknowledged his crime, and asked for a chance to redeem himself. It worked. Was pardoned and returned to his life as a respected senator. Cicero wasn't the only one who used these tactics. In fact, he was taught them by his tutor, the famous Stoic philosopher Seneca. Seneca was also a Roman senator, playwright, and advisor to the Emperor Nero. He was famous for his ability to remain calm under pressure, like the time he saved Nero's life when he accidentally set his hair aflame while trying to light a candle. Seneca's quick thinking and level-headedness prevented what could have been a disastrous fire, allowing Nero to escape unharmed and ultimately take the throne. In fact, it was common knowledge that the Stoics were better leaders than their peers. The most famous example is, of course, Marcus Aurelius, who took over the empire at a moment's notice after his adoptive father, Antoninus, died on a campaign in Germany. While he might not have been the best writer or debater, Marcus Aurelius proved to be an excellent emperor, managing to hold the empire together through countless crises, including wars, plagues, and economic collapse. The secret to the Stoic success lay in the way they dealt with one of the most basic elements of human existence: emotions. Emotions can make us impulsive and reckless, which is great when those emotions are positive. But negative emotions like fear, anxiety, and anger can lead to disastrous decisions. The Stoics knew that your emotions are under your control, not the other way around. By remaining calm and rational, you can make better decisions and achieve your goals. If you want to learn how to stay calm under pressure, look no further than the ancient Stoics. After all, they were the original Stoic philosophers. If you want to discover the secrets to their resilience, keep watching. We will reveal everything you need to know. Now let's get back to our story. Cicero's decision to submit to the Senate rather than resist the soldiers didn't come from nowhere. It was the result of years of training under Seneca, who had taught him the art of controlling his emotions and remaining calm under pressure. Seneca was a firm believer in the power of reason and self-discipline, and he had dedicated his life to teaching others how to harness these forces for good. But Seneca wasn't the only one. Another famous Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, also believed that we have more control over our lives than we think. He famously said, "No man can harm you unless you permit it." For Epictetus, it wasn't external events that caused distress, but rather our own judgments about those events. He argued that we could choose how we respond to any situation, even the worst ones. In today's world, this idea might seem counterintuitive. After all, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the constant barrage of bad news and negativity. But Epicurus' philosophy offers a powerful antidote. By focusing on our own thoughts and reactions, we can find inner peace even in the midst of chaos. You don't have to be a philosopher to benefit from this wisdom. By practicing mindfulness and emotional regulation, anyone can become more resilient in the face of adversity. Why stop there? The Stoics weren't just about coping with negativity. They were also passionate about making the world a better place. Seneca was a vocal critic of inequality and injustice, and he used his influence to help the poor and the oppressed. Marcus Aurelius, meanwhile, was known for his fairness and impartiality. He ruled over one of the largest empires in history with compassion and wisdom, treating all of his subjects equally, regardless of their background or beliefs. Being a good person isn't enough, though. You have to take action to make a real difference in the world. The Stoics believed that we have a duty to use our talents and abilities to help others. Whether that's through acts of charity, speaking out against injustice, or simply being a good friend or neighbor. In today's world, we often feel powerless in the face of big problems like poverty, war, and environmental degradation. But the Stoics remind us that we don't have to stand by idly. By working together, we can make positive change no matter how small it may seem. But what about happiness? Isn't that the ultimate goal? Well, the Stoics had some thoughts on that too. They believed that happiness didn't come from external circumstances, but rather from within. Epicurus, one of the founders of Stoicism, famously said, "Happiness is a state of mind." He believed that we could find joy and contentment regardless of what was going on around us. This might sound simplistic, but it's a powerful idea. In a world that often feels out of control, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. But by focusing on our own attitudes and perspectives, we can find happiness even in difficult times. The Stoics weren't against enjoying life, but they believed that true pleasure came from simple things, like spending time with friends and family, pursuing our goals, and helping others. These are all things that we can control, unlike external circumstances such as the weather or the actions of other people. It's not always easy to stay focused on what we can control, though. We all experience moments of doubt, fear, and despair. But the Stoics believed that we could train ourselves to overcome these negative emotions and cultivate a more positive mindset. Through meditation, self-reflection, and a commitment to virtue, we can learn to find joy in the present moment and appreciate the beauty of life. Stoicism isn't just about accepting whatever life throws at you. It's about actively shaping your own destiny and making the most of every opportunity. The Stoics believe that we all have the potential to be great, and it's up to us to unlock that potential and live a life of purpose and meaning. Marcus Aurelius, the last of the 5 good emperors of Rome, summed it up perfectly. He said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." So if you want to live a happier, more fulfilling life, it's time to start thinking like a Stoic. While it might be helpful to draw inspiration from ancient philosophies, it's important to remember that they were written in a completely different context. For example, Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations during a time when he was in charge of one of the largest empires in history and had absolute power over the lives of millions of people. Of course, you probably don't have these same privileges. Still, Aurelius' ideas can help you become a better leader. He believed in leading by example and always doing what was right, even when it was difficult. He also valued fairness and equality, and he made sure that everyone in his empire was treated with respect. By following Aurelius' lead, you can become a more effective and compassionate leader yourself. That said, it's important to recognize the limits of ancient wisdom. The Stoics lived in a very different world than ours, and their ideas may not always apply to modern situations. For example, they believed that it was possible to be impartial and objective, but we now know that this is not always possible. Our biases and perspectives always color our judgment to some extent. So while it's important to learn from the Stoics, we should also be aware of their limitations. Their ideas can be a valuable source of insight, but they're not a one-size-fits-all solution to every problem. In conclusion, the ancient Stoics offered timeless insights that can help us navigate the challenges of life and make the world a better place. By embracing their philosophy of emotional regulation, social responsibility, and inner peace, we can become more resilient, empathetic, and joyful people. But it's up to us to put these ideas into practice and make them our own. So go forth and be stoic, my friends.